Hello, boys, girls out there in YouTube land. This is Clay of Major Disappointment Models, and I just got back from the Oregon Modelers Jamboree. It was held down south of me and at the Lynn County Fairgrounds in Albany, Oregon, and it was put on by the Oregon Mid-Valley Modelers. And in attendance were several modeling groups and clubs from Oregon down in the Mid-Valley to the southern part of Oregon. One of them was a Salem club, IPMS Salem. And I drove down early Friday morning. It takes about 2 hours from my house to get to Vancouver, Washington, on the border of Oregon and Washington. And I stayed with a friend of mine, John Geigel, who was going to be setting up his vendor's booth. And if you don't know John, he's on Facebook and whatnot. He buys collections. So when guys like me kick the bucket finally, my wife's going to call him and say, John, come and buy his models, you know. And what he does is he buys them at a discount because he's a businessman. And then he turns around and he goes to these modeling shows and he sells them to modelers like you and me at a discount. So he's not selling them at retail. He's not buying them for $1 and then selling kits for retail. But he's making some money on them, you know, because he's got to transport them, he's got to store them, all this other stuff. He's a businessman. So over the years, he's a friend of mine. I've known him for quite a while, and I usually help him at the IPMS Seattle show in Renton, Washington every year with their big sales and whatnot. And I've gone down to Vancouver to help him at one of his big sales down there. And this time I said, well, you know, I'm retired. Didn't have anything on my calendar for this weekend, so why don't I go down there and help you, John? And he accepted my help, and I stayed with him, and it was great. Him and his wife, Shelly. So we had a good time. So one of the things we do whenever I go to these model shows, you know, and I rarely show my models because I rarely finish any lately. I always try to support the local club by buying their raffle tickets, you know. So they were selling them at a reasonable price. It was like 10 for $10, and then you got 25 tickets if you bought $20 worth. So I usually always buy about $20 worth of tickets. And in past shows, I've been pretty lucky. Well, this one was no different. John can't believe how lucky I am at these raffles. So they were doing the drawings on the hour, every hour, starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. So at 10 o'clock, one of my tickets won, and I picked up this. This is a Hasegawa A6 M5C, and I've got like 4 or 5 in my stash, but this one is still sealed. You can see the glare off the plastic. And I said, well, it doesn't hurt to have another 0. So I picked up that one. Then at the 11 o'clock, I won again. So I picked up this gecko. And it's a Tamiya gecko. And I believe I got at least one. I might have 2 in my stash. This one is open, but as you can see in the inside, it's still all sealed. So, okay, good deal. So, and this is a pretty expensive kit too, you know, if you were trying to buy it retail. Okay, that's number 2. At 10, 11 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, I won again. This is a really expensive Tamiya kit, and they're hard to find nowadays because it's the Winter Flak Panzer. And at first, when I got it, I go, oh, you know, every time I get one or I see one, the troops are all missing. So we were looking, and there they are, the white right here. Do you see it? Right there. That's all the white guys. So, hey, good deal. And it's still all sealed, you know, so, man, that's a bonus. I believe I might have one in my stash, but, you know, now I got another one. So, that was 10, 11, and 12. At 1 o'clock, I won again. Now, I got like 5 of these kits, you know. I got one from a friend, and there was like 3 kits in a box, you know, and stuff like that. They were all started. But this one is sealed. So, okay, I'll take it. You know, there's a raffle prize. I want it. Okay. So at the 2 o'clock one, their prize table of the raffle was getting down to the nitty gritty. So I won again. They happened to have this. And I said, okay, I know I got a couple of them in my stash, you know, but I have a soft spot in my heart for Hueys because, as some of you might know, I was a Huey pilot when I started my Army career. So, you know, and I was talking, there's a friend of mine, Bob, he's a modeler too, but he's a retired full-bird colonel, and he flew helicopters in Vietnam and whatnot. So, and we're talking about this, and I said, yeah, look at this, Colonel. I said, this is a great picture, but it's a misnomer. It says here, Bell UH-1D. And if you're a Huey pilot, you know that the D models had the pitot tube mounted on the nose. The H models had the pitot tube on the roof. Now, some H models still had the D model pitot tube. So it might be confusing, but no D models had the roof-mounted pitot tube. So, and this is a nice kid. So I was asking him because in my career I never saw any H model gunships, and I didn't know if they ever had any H model or D models. I know that some of the A, B, and C's, the earlier short Hueys, you know, you could tell because the door only got one window on it. They were gunships, okay? And the colonel's thinking, he said, you know, I think there was some, because he believes he had a friend who flew. So, yeah, that was our discussion about Hueys. And it was, I ran into Josh at Rotterdam, and he's from Oregon, and we're talking. I know him from Facebook and whatnot. We're in a group together, so and usually we meet every Friday night, but we never met in person, so it was good to see him. And he told me, oh, you got to see the helicopters on there. Well, there was like 5 or 6. It wasn't a gigantic model show because it's out in Oregon, you know, I mean, not in the middle of Oregon, you know, there's not much out there, but a lot of beautiful farm country. So I said, well, Josh, you know, sometimes I'm not really impressed with guys who do the helicopters because every panel line is showing, every rivet. And I said, you know, I've flown Hueys, 58s, and Blackhawks, and we never had a panel line showing. I said, as a matter of fact, on a Huey, the doors for the cockpit, the doors for the rear of the helicopter, and sometimes the jump doors, and a lot of times the tail booms too, never matched the rest of the fuselage colors. So he asked me why, and I said, well, you know, when I started flying in Fort Riley, Kansas, it's hotter than hell during the summer. We took the doors off, all our Hueys. And they went into a hangar, and they were just stacked up, you know. And when it got cooler, well, guess what? You tell the crew chief, hey, Chief, we're going to go put the doors back on the bird. We're going to go out flying early in the morning. Okay. And he grabbed 2 doors. And it may not be the doors that came off the bird, you know. It might be somebody else. So, of course, the paint fades differently, you know, for a different aircraft on when they were painted and stuff. Same with the pilot doors. And if you look at old Vietnam pictures, a lot of times the pilot doors are nowhere matching the rest of the fuselage because they got some bullet holes in it, so they took off the door and they put a new one on, and it's like a bright OD green where everything's a faded OD green. So, and then tail booms, you know, they get replaced and whatnot like that. And the tail boom, I never seen them clean like this because the JP4, the aviation gas that the Huey burns in the turbine, puts out this black soot. And sometimes you can hardly read the United States Army on there because this part is all black, you know. So, well, that's my Huey story. So, it was a good show. And I helped John, and we sold a ton of models. And the way John thanks us, the guys who help him, is he'll buy us dinner and he'll give us kits, plastic. We get paid in plastic. So, one of the kits he gave me was this one. And this is a repop from 94 of the 1963 kit. And it has an H number, but it's a 1994 repop. And believe it or not, I don't have one in my stash. So I said, wow, you got one of those. What do you want for it? And he goes, you want it? Here. And he throws it to me. I take it. Okay. Then during the show, we always find kits, and we tell people that because John buys collections, it's buyer beware. So we ask you, if the box is open, to open it up, make sure the decals are in there and the canopies and everything else. So this one, the guy was looking at it. We were going to sell it for $15, and I think this is about a $25, $30 kit, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where you go. So he opens it up, and it's a giveaway when it's already on step 5, the instructions. And we open it up, and sure enough, somebody was sanding off something, and then they painted. I don't know what but ugly color that's supposed to be, but so the cockpit. So John says, I can't sell it, but it also had PE. That was for the Hasegawa Zero, and John goes, it'll fit to me a Zero, but I'm taking the PE. And I said, okay. He goes, you want the kit because it started? We can't sell it. And I said, yeah, I'll take it. So, and I got a few of these in my stash. So okay, that's fine. That's a Benny. All right, I'll take that kit. And then one of the customers goes, man, I was looking at this, but I don't think you should sell it. So he told me there's an issue with it, and he goes, I go, where is it? And he goes, I'll show it to you. So I take it up to John. I go, yeah, we can't sell this one. And I remember this kit when I was a kid. This Messerschmitt. It was one of a couple of different Messerschmitt that Revell put out. And the box number is H279. So, it was a long time ago. There's no UPC codes. What's the copyright of this? 1969 right here. So, and at the same time, Revell was coming out with all these other kits here, they're really neat, like the Spitfire and then the Lucian Tiger. And they had the Curtis, the Flying Tigers, P40 also. So I said, well, what's wrong with the kit? Open the box. Yeah, it's not a ME109 anywhere near. This is a A, B, or C model Huey, depending on how you want to make it. And again, you can tell it has a shorter door, and it has the fuselage here. Usually in the H model, fuselage goes out towards the engine before it comes down the tail boom. But there's 2 of them in here. And according to the decals, this is an old Aurora kit. So I am going to put it together and see what we got. Apparently, the note in here is that one windshield is missing, and one auxiliary panel. Well, the auxiliary panel doesn't mean anything, but the windshield, I'll see if John's going to teach me how to vacuum for him. So I got this, And then, there's vendors. The club was selling kits really cheap. I mean, there was some, and we call them fluff kits because they're like kits that you can get almost anywhere. Now, some vendors, they're always asking for a premium for some of these kits, and they're little kits. And that's why we call them fluff. They're they're not real. If John were selling this as about $1 to $5 kit. Now, of course, it says $5 on here, So, yeah, I forgot what the club was selling it for. And one of them I got is a sticker on it, and it says, where is it? I don't know. There's a kit on here, and it says $3 on it. So one of the guys that was working with us, he was in the boats and stuff. So he goes over and he goes, how much is this kit? And the guys go, well, it's tagged. It's got the orange tag on it. And I got one that's orange tag too. And it says, he was looking at some destroyer or battleship or something. And he goes, $5, is that correct? And the guy goes, yeah. Well, how much is this one? And what does it say on it? $3. Right? So he started buying up a lot of their ship models. So, but we had a good time. We got to see a lot of people that I basically only see at the big hobby shows because they're not in my club, the Tacoma Green Dragons of the IPMS. So it was a good time. We had a great time. It was a long day. It was like 2-hour drive. in the morning from John's house down to Albany, and then like a 2.5 hour drive back because of the traffic. And, they had the Ducks playing Oregon State, so the big state rivalry. So, yeah, it was a little busy, but you know what? It was a long day. We were beat, but we had fun. It's fun interacting with your fellow modelers, throwing insults and making jokes and stuff like that. It's just great. It's a great camaraderie builder. And then before I went, I asked my club, is there anything there they're looking for? So I actually was able to find 4 kits for 4 different modelers in my club that they were looking for. So they worked out good. And John, he sold to them at really good prices. So nobody's going to complain. Well, I think I've talked long enough. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys continue modeling, and I hope you enjoy my channel. And if you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. You can see the latest videos and stuff like that. I'm not making money off of this. I didn't monetize the channel, anything. If you see any ads, it's not from me. I do this just to help boost the hobby and boost my club. So the second Wednesday of every month, our club meets. So I videotape the guys and the gals in the club that are presenting their models and the reviewing of the kits and whatnot like that. And I make those videos, and it's unbelievable. The last meeting we had, I read to some of the guys how many views some of these videos have had, and they're flabbergasted. 14,000 views. And how long has it been up? 8 years. They asked me, when does it get pulled down? I said, never, unless I pull it down, So I thank you guys for viewing. I thank you guys for giving us thumbs ups and whatnot. And if you comment, I try to wait till the next meeting to read those comments to the modelers and get their responses before I respond back to you. So just because I didn't respond right away doesn't mean I'm not going to respond. Give me some time to get with the other modeler and see what he has to say or she has to say about your comment, like how you like the paint, and Rob Otero is one of the master builders in our club, and he thanks everybody for their positive comments. So that's all I got. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later.